the words will record this sent a tremor in my stomach, and the thought arose, uh-oh, for the record, it will incriminate me. It's buenos dias, bon dia, good morning. I have to share with each of you just what's happening in this moment. So I'm going to shift the video. That's Vida's mother. And true Dharma practitioner in an incredible inverted downward cat and head upside down, right? With all the limbs stretched in full, complete rest, relaxation, and with a sense of safety, feeling safe. And this is a street cat. And just as I am speaking, her attention is fully here. So imagine if each of us would fully occupy this body, this form, in a deep sense of feeling safe in the world. In a deep sense that there's nothing else but this right now. Fully occupying the body and totally getting out of our head. And I would say, based on experience, that is the essence of our practice. That is the reality of our life. As my venerable ancestor, Zen master Zenke Hartman Roshi used to say, just this is it. 4 precious words. And as the years went on and she would give her talk, she would then say, at some point we dropped the it. And then some years or she would say, well, we will drop the is. And then the second word, just. We're left with that. And eventually, if we're fortunate, we might be blessed with the discernment and insight, and that word is gone. Right? The reality of our life, what is it? Yeah. So all these words I just share in the first minute or so, they're all wonderful and they paint a beautiful picture. And then there's the moment-to-moment experience. And I had a little piece of paper here. Oh, here it is. I recently was reminded by a Dharma practitioner who said, our reaction to any given situation is our choice. Our reaction to any given situation is our choice. So I'm going to give you a test to see how you do with that. So some of you, I think all of you know that birthdays are really important to me. They're very close to my heart. Well, today I want to wish the happiest of birthday to the man who's the President of the United States of America. who's turning 80 years old, who was born and through causes and conditions, and let me just say I'm dedicating this talk to him, and through causes and conditions, he has reached where he is right now. The karma of that human being has placed this human being, or will place him this evening on the grounds of the White House on this I think it cost $60 million to build this facility to watch eight teams, I think, of two human beings fight each other. How was your reaction to that situation? And it's important to remember that we all have our own karmic trajectory. And this dear president, who's also been my teacher since seeing him on that escalator in 2015, he has his trajectory, but also millions of people made that choice. And how do we hold all those beings, that they're just mirrors of who we are in this moment in time? If we're truly living the words that say, awake, awake, don't waste this life. A Dharma brother, when we were practicing at Tassajara, once said to me, he had come into Zen Buddhism from another spiritual path, that one of his mentors in the previous spiritual path have said to him, now remember, you don't have to like everyone. You must certainly love everyone. So how are we doing with that? As we celebrate today's birthday. It's wonderful to, share Dharma words and join in Dharma practice and, and on and on and on. And yet what is it to actually live the reality of our moment to moment with everyone? For we are all interconnected, as Indra's net shows us, the teaching of Indra's net. The net, which that little mirror in each little corner, we reflect each other. So our reaction to any given situation is our choice. And one thing I've learned from the path of the healing of trauma is that choice is freedom, which I've learned that from our mentor in the trainings of our trauma healing learnings. Choice is freedom. So as we were sitting the previous, the first Zazen period, I became aware that, let me just back up and say, I live in a very privileged place. I can step out the balcony and the Atlantic Ocean is right there, 50 meters away. And yet right below me is the recycling center for the neighborhood and the garbage dump. What a perfect place to live for a Dharma practitioner. Especially when crowds begin to come for the summer season, which began this past Monday. And a week or two could go by and nothing is picked up. Right? So, you want to sit on your balcony to enjoy the beautiful sunset, and all your senses are telling you something else is happening right below you. So what choice do we make? So during the first period of Zazen, I started hearing someone have chosen to, they must have gotten emptied in the last day because someone was recycling their bottles, right? So immediately it's like, the bins are empty, finally. And then the bottle droppings continue and continue and continue, like for 10 minutes into the Zazen period. Somebody was just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bottles. Because if the bin is empty, they all crash. So during the interval, I kept hearing it. So I looked, and it was a friend or an acquaintance, because he and his wife owned this little incredibly delicious, delightful place called Abraza. Has the best barbecue you ever taste. And he was recycling the bottles from his shop. Probably a week or two worth, because the bins have been full, right? The reality of our life moment to moment, right? One of the things that I've learned from Zenke Roshi was when I first encountered her with my first sesshin, she was reading from a book by Uchiyama Roshi called Opening the Hand of Thought. So this was probably in the early 90s. And every sesshin, she would read some more from the book. And then when she and Lou, after there was an earthquake in San Francisco in the 80s, and they started redoing Green Gulch's Zendo, and Lou was allergic to whatever was happening in the construction, that's when they moved to the city center. So when she'd give her talks in the Buddha Hall on Wednesday nights, she would then she started reading from Suzuki Roshi's Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. She'd say a few little intro, and then she would just read. And I thought that was wonderful. No, not wonderful, because I didn't even think of that word in my vocabulary. I don't know what I thought about it. In hindsight now, I think it was wonderful that she was doing that. And I'll tell you why in a moment. I was just sort of wondering what was happening, because every other teacher who gave a talk would take their time propping their robes and what looked like priming and this and that, and they would begin to do this thing. And Zenke would sit down, she'd arrange her legs, she'd pick up the book, and that was her Dharma talk. And one day, Lou Hartman, her husband was over 60 years, who was my first Zazen instructor at Green Gulch, shouted from the back. He would sit in the bench, "Blanche, say your own words," And everybody in the Buddha Hall just cracked up, and she kind of looked at him and, proceeded reading. But the piece in hindsight over the years, it was the sense that here was this Western Dharma teacher who felt that her talk, her words to us receiving, would be to transmit the words of those who came before her. Right? What an honor to our ancestors. Huh? To not cling that what we have to say is the most important thing, but to actually realize that the most important things have already been said through millenniums. Through millenniums, every time we open our mouth, we're just plagiarizing, right? The reality of our lives, right? So, to honor my ancestor teacher, Zenke Roshi, I'm going to do the same thing. So, the piece about Uchiyama Roshi and his lineage is that is the lineage that Zenke Roshi, that Zenke Roshi inherited in terms of sewing the Rokasu, right? Joshin's son was a nun that was with Uchiyama Roshi, which is also Shohaku Kumura, one of the translators of Zen. So that lineage for her was very, very important. And the place was called Antaiji, if I remember correctly, in Kyoto. And that's where a lot of the Western people went in the 70s to train in Zen. And it was Uchiyama Roshi's example that I have been wholeheartedly attempting to follow. When he retired after 10 years of being abbot or the head person at Antaiji, and people were like, why would this Zen master retire? He was also a master of origami, so he's an artist. And people were like, why is he retiring? And he said, because no one should do anything for more than 10 years, right? So I'm giving you all that as Uchiyama Roshi's advice. Whatever you're doing in your life, start the clock, right? So in this chapter, this is from Opening the Hand of Thought, which was translated by Jishu Warmer and Tom Wright, who I believe they're Western Dharma teachers, and Shohaku Okamura. On this chapter, Roshi brings up Jean-Jacques Rousseau, right? Because he was very well versed in Western literature, Western philosophy. Right? And I have to speak for myself, how many of us, myself included, is that well versed in our lineage history of their philosophies and their literature, And this teacher was. And he says that Rousseau wrote in Emile, which is one of the writings of Rousseau, that every person, regardless of the wealth or status he, in this case, may be heir to, is born naked and poor. Naked and poor. And the first time I read that, I immediately went to my abuela Margot, who raised me, who she said, remember, no matter what you've learned, what you've accumulated, because of such emphasis on get an education, make something out of yourself, the immigrant thing. She said, remember, you will not take it with you. She'd always say, you come alone, you leave alone. You come with nothing, you go with nothing. Little I know that Rousseau got that idea from my abuela Margot, who knows? But then Rousseau says, and when he dies, must die naked and poor. And then Uchiyama continues, this is certain, and yet in between birth and death, people wear all sorts of clothes, right? All sorts of clothes, right? Some of us wear rakusus or monk robes. Others wear navy blue suits with big red ties that go below, their navel. Right? One wears the splendid and gorgeous robes of a queen, says Uchiyama Roshi, while others spend their whole life wearing poor tattered rags. Some people wear army uniforms, others prison clothes, and others monks' robes. He goes on to say, of course, our clothes, in parentheses, are not made only of cloth. They're also the clothes of class, status, fame, and wealth. All the clothes of our busy roles and cherished identities. Right. Identities sit really close to my heart in terms of the Dharma path. And if we're fortunate enough, I will, on another sharing of Dharma words, will focus on that. Uchiyama continues, there comes a time when we're stripped naked of all these things. Of all these things. Yeah. And my wholehearted wish for all of us is that stripping happens not when we're already dead, but that it happens like right here in this moment, right? In this moment. He says, there are also clothes called handsome man, smart woman. Yet no matter how beautiful a person is, there will eventually come the time when he or she must change clothes and don the dress of an old person. Well, there's some of us in this call who are already with those clothes on. The mind doesn't want to engage in that dress, but the body does not allow us to. Likewise, Uchiyama continues, in the end, the genius may very well have to change. The genius might very well have to change into the clothes called senility. And that goes for all of us, including him who's celebrating his 80th birthday today. All of us. There are also the clothes of superiority complex, inferiority complex, happiness and unhappiness, as well as those of belief, race, and nation. He concludes this section by saying, we change from one system of thought to the next. Right? But when it's time to die, we have to take off even our clothes of racial distinction and die as completely naked selves. Right? Completely naked selves. What would that look like to each of us in this moment in time? I'll end by giving you an example of something that happened right before we all began to sit. I was looking to confirm the spelling of someone's name, so I entered it in Google, and I saw something, and I got curious because I learned something about them. It was great. But then I thought, oh, I wonder what it's, because the AI came up, and I thought, oh, I wonder what AI says about Ryūmon Sensei, This was probably half an hour before we were joining. So I put in Ryūmon, and immediately down below Baldokin came. So I clicked on that, and there's AI. Well, it says a couple of accurate things, 2 streams in. I really love the way AI have pulled together some things from the bio, from the website, because AI never talked to me, to come up with that. But it has me co-editing a book with Thich Nhat Hanh, which actually wasn't me. There might be something of me in the book because it was by one of the former nuns from his community. But it's like, oh my God. And then there's a place where you can click within the AI response. You can click, and it gives you like it says there were like 4 or 6 other items. So I clicked on that. Oh my Buddha. All of a sudden, I see there's a San Francisco Zen Center entry, and I forwarded to Jimitsu and Araku Sensei, and there's my name, still with the Gutierrez, but he has the picture of the Venerable Roshi Akiba Roshi, who is the head of the North American Soto Zen, communities. There's his picture with my name next to it. So what I wrote to them was like, just saw this, wow. And, the other thought that arose, which I held back in an attempt to be wearing the dress of a good Dharma practitioner, was, I guess, yes, we all look alike, Amazing. Amazing. So the clothes, And I had to look really close, you know. But there's no way. If you've met or you know Akiba Roshi and you look at that image, you know that's him, you know. On the Zen Center webpage, one of their pages. Yes. So again, our reaction to any given situation is our choice. And we come naked and we go naked. And in between, we wear a lot of different clothes and robes, identifications. Yeah. But if we're fortunate, we're able to come together and share in a space of meditation, in a space of community, a space of silence. So that the mirroring that arises, if one of the just here and now, in this moment, in the suffering of the world and in the joy of the world. May we be blessed with a long life so that we continue to enjoy each other in healing, in love, and always in light. Thank you for listening to the Dharma.
So we'll take a moment and let me stop this recording.